Thank you everybody for coming out. This is our Making Pinball, Making Friends talk. This is where we get all my favorite people in the world, all the homebrew pinball creators together and just talk about how rad all these projects are that people are making. So we got a lot of people here making a lot of cool projects, so this is gonna be kind of run and gun. But the goal is to give you guys kind of a taster experience with like, these people are people like us that think making pinball would be super cool, and a lot of these people have dove in and actually done it. And in varying degrees and different levels of like, just starting out to, award-winning. We've like 3 award-winning homebrew pinball machines here this time. So I want everybody here to get a kind of taste experience, see that these people are super cool, and then come out and actually see their games, try it out, ask questions in real time, and let's get started. So we're gonna start off with Kyle Smet, who's come on up, come down here. Just hop in anywhere there's a mic. You can sit by me here.
I love it.
Okay, so Kyle, you are the Best of Show winner of TPF last year with your game, Friday the 13th.
Yes, sir.
So talk a little bit about like what got you into homebrew and what keeps you in homebrew, I guess.
So what got me into homebrew is I was never the smartest kid in class, so I'm like, hey, you know what I can do? So when you talk to people who have been in kind of extreme survival situations and they shouldn't have lived, but they did, it's because they had no idea what they were getting into and they just had that will that kept them going. So for me, I'd been kind of playing, collecting, restoring for several years, and I said, well, where can I go from here? I can make my own game. So knowing nothing, never having coded anything, never having built anything, I'm like, okay, well, I don't know what I'm doing, so here we go. So I had a goal. My goal was that I wanted my game to look like a professional game. And when I say professional, I don't mean that pejoratively. I mean that I wanted it to look, I wanted to have ramps, I wanted to have a clear-coated playfield, and I just wanted it as presentable as possible. That was my definition of success. Anybody, if anybody in the crowd or anybody out there is thinking about making their own game, only you can define what success looks like. So if you kind of want to put your game out as early as possible and get feedback and talk to everybody, that's great. If you want to hide your game in the basement, you never want to show anybody, that's okay. That's your definition of success. So for me, I wanted kind of a game that was as presentable and polished as possible. So I wanted a theme too that probably nobody else could tackle, some kind of a horror 80s, action guy. I like RoboCop and I like Jason and Freddy and all that kind of stuff. So with the Friday the 13th franchise, the rights are all over the map. So I think this game could probably never be done the way that I did it. I had 2 video games, 12 movies. I had 6 of the original voice actors involved, which I thought was super cool.
Right.
So I tried to get as many folks involved to kind of legitimize the game as much as possible. I had a ton of help. Again, never having coded anything. So the first time the game ever left my basement was when I brought it to TPF last year. So I appreciate the time here. I know I didn't bring the game this year, so I certainly cede the floor to everybody who did. But it was what a journey, and I was so glad that it was able to make it here safely, and it played like a rock star all weekend. It was super awesome.
That's great, and we met for the first time at the show in real life. And so anytime I meet the homebrew people, I'm like, how was the project? Like, would you ever do it again? And at the start of the show, it was like, no way, I need a break. By the end of it, hanging out with everybody and all the camaraderie that was there, I was like already planning for the next game. And in the same way that you don't want to bring the game out until it's ready to your certain standard, that's why it's not here, but we've seen pictures, it looks incredible, and we can't wait to see it in Expo. Is that your goal?
So game number 2 will be at Expo this year. I announced the theme, I did like a fun little trailer. So I haven't, with Friday the 13th, I did a build log. I'm like, hey, this is what I'm doing, and I kind of showed everybody the work in progress and my mistakes. With this game, I'm kind of keeping it close to the chest. I did announce the theme, but it will be at Expo this year. And to Aaron's point, I was exhausted. I brought the game and I said, I'm never doing this again. But I'm telling you, to get that feedback, to see people wait in line to play something that you made, there's nothing else like it. So as soon as I saw that, as soon as I felt that, I'm like, dude, okay, game number 2, here we go.
Okay, you're done. Get out of here. We got like the crew that made the Pinball and Wonderland game. Like, come on down. Come join us up here. So this is your first, come on, sit down, join us up here. So this is your first show. So introduce yourselves real quick. Like, I feel totally underdressed.
She's the lead.
Hi, I'm Cayman Kai.
And I'm Ray Ford.
And then our third person on the team is Andrew Duncombe, who will be here later today.
So like Kyle was just talking about like the idea of getting your game to a show, getting first player feedback and stuff like that. And that's really where you guys are. This is the first show you brought it to, right?
Correct.
So,
Yes.
So I sit back and I watch everybody, standing over their games, watching people play. And I'm sure that, you've had the time developing the game yourselves, but what are you learning as you watch people play your game for the first time that have never touched it before? I mean, have you gleaned anything interesting out of that, or what are you going to do from here?
Well, are we talking learned about like what we need to build, or what did we learn from just
Anything.
watching them?
Anything.
I've learned that people are a tad more like easygoing than I thought.
Okay.
I thought we were going to get a bit more ripped into due to the state of our game, but people are having fun and they're doing a good job of, overlooking its current state and
Yeah.
just knowing that flipping is fun. So they're having a lot of fun, and we are too.
Because you're sharing the journey now.
Well, yeah, and what I've been saying all weekend, I feel very vulnerable, honestly. It takes a lot to stand up next to the amazing games that everyone else here has made. I feel, and I've said this, I feel underdressed. I feel like I'm naked next to a bunch of people wearing suits.
Right.
But I think back to the first time that I flipped a whitewood, and that was the first time that I ever thought that maybe I could do this too.
Yeah.
And I hope that by being vulnerable, maybe we'll inspire others to take this journey.
And I think that's a big thing. That's why, I really wanted to include, new projects in this stuff. Because I think that even when we did this talk last year, Ernie Silverberg, ended our session saying, don't be intimidated by the full fit and finish dress of the games out here. Because again, everybody's timelines on these things are different. And I think the most important thing for people making their first game is to get it out there, get it at your first show. Now you're in the club, and now you're shoulder to shoulder with all these people making great homebrew games. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was worried about bringing it, but I don't regret it at all, actually. I mean, it really is something to watch other people play your game. And you get something from it that you can't get even watching Ray play it,
Sure.
or me or Andrew play it. It's different having other people play it.
And the things that you thought would be fun that maybe they don't enjoy, or the things that you didn't imagine would ever happen in a game, like stuck balls or things like that. That's a big thing that comes out of your first time bringing it, is you just get used to playing your own game a certain way, and the public's just hitting on it,
Yes.
doing whatever they can think of. So,
Correct, yeah.
so I mean, again, brand new game. So we're going to bring up another person here now. So
Okay,
thank you so
yeah,
much for coming down.
absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
y'all.
So come and check out Pinball in Wonderland. So let's bring Mad Max. Let's bring the Mad Max crew. Nate Giles, there you go, and Justin Mcnulty. So come on down for this. So this is another game. This is both the Pinball in Wonderland and the Mad Max Fury Road game. This is their first public showing. So here, slide up a little closer by the mic so we can get this. I was guided on how to get people to the mic. So this game, again, this is an incredible first showing. It's full fit and finish. I was very impressed, even the way you got feedback down into the apron design itself. So there's a very mechanical, unique UI experience worked into this game right away. So talk a little bit about your process and how this game came to be, and then why some of the design choices that you see in your game are a little different than usual.
Okay. The game came to be, he was a senior in high school.
Right.
And I'm a machinist and work with machinery. And he was thinking about being an engineer. So I said, let's build a pinball machine. He said, okay. Was it you that spit out Mad Max? Fury Road?
It stuck.
Yeah.
That was the first thing that came up, and we're like, perfect. So we did that. And we didn't finish it until after he's an engineer. So
5 long years later.
Yeah. Well, so like a lot of the things that, when I was standing over the game, still haven't even got to play it yet. I've stood over and watched dozens of games playing, but I'm not going to be the guy that butts into the line and cuts it front. But the thing that was really cool to see is a lot of the feedback that you guys have down into the apron and stuff like that, some of the lighting and things like that. So talk a little bit about that design choice, because that's definitely a unique thing that I don't see in any other homebrew games out there.
So we wanted to add more lights to our game to indicate more modes.
Right.
And we ran out of room on the play field because it was all taken up by the artwork. So, and originally in our original design, we had Nixie tubes in the apron, and we were using those, but then we just started adding LEDs and it looked amazing. So we just put all of our indicators on the apron, and that we put even more LEDs than we needed, which made us have to code in more modes, and it was just a feedback cycle that.
Well, and I think that also, the property of Mad Max, it's very we're bolting stuff together to make it work. It translates really well into the idea of a homebrew game. There's conventions that are pinball traditions and pinball and stuff like that we're forced to kind of conform to. And so basically shoehorning in new technology and stuff like that into creating that experience is super cool. So, this is the first project you guys have worked on together. And you're out of school now? So, do you aspire to ever do a project like this again?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Absolutely. It was a blast all the way through. The only thing I would change is we need to do it quicker, I think. But when we started 5 years ago, we got a lot of progress done at the beginning, and then there was a lot of waiting around.
A lot of life happening in the meantime.
But what really pushed us to actually finish it was signing up for the show. Once we signed up, then like a huge part of our progress was done in the last like 8 weeks leading up to the show.
Absolutely.
That's the key. You just gotta
Yeah.
sign up for the show and then let the magic happen.
Pretty much, you have to start making decisions and
Yeah.
live with them.
Well, and I
When
think
it's
that's
something way in the future. This works. Well, let's try this mode. I don't like it, and it could have been amazing. But when there's
Lots
a
of-
deadline, you just got to make decisions and go.
Option paralysis.
Yeah, it's the reality show deadline that we talk
Yeah.
about, where it's like you got to get there, you're going to get there with whatever you get, but it also creates a little bit of like added incentive to like
Yeah.
just crank it out, make some
Yeah.
good decisions, and then you can always iterate later on it, but you got to get at least to the show to start. So,
Yeah.
dude, we're cruising through time right now, so come and check out Mad Max Fury Road in the homebrew section, I guess,
Yeah.
and come meet everybody that's working on these games. So thank you guys so much for coming out.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. So next up, it was a surprise to me. Anthony, do you want to come join me up here? So Anthony Van Winkle is one of the key maintainers of the Mission Pinball Framework. So this is this guy's the hero of so many homebrew games. And I think that when I realized he was suddenly in town, I was like, you got to come up here and talk for a little bit. So the Mission Pinball Framework is a software framework that works with all sorts of different hardware platforms, but the main thing is it's going to get you to the point where you're actually taking your idea and your vision for pinball and getting it into real life as quickly as possible. Then continuing to iterate and enhance and stuff like that, but this base framework really speeds up that whole process. So talk a little bit about like what you're seeing these days as far as like, I mean, you guys have gone through a major upgrade to a lot of the visualization end of things, and like what does the future for MPF look like as far as like your goals, I guess, as a maintainer?
Well, I mean, the biggest part with MPF is keeping it up to speed with all the ridiculous things people are doing. Because some, like here we think, okay, MPF is very stable, it does all the things, and then some people build a Mad Max machine that has a whole bunch of new parts and a whole bunch of new things that it needs to do, and Fast has to build some new boards, and we need to figure out how to control them and all that stuff. So the cool thing about homebrew is there's no limitations. There's no, this thing would be mechanically too expensive to produce, so we're not going to do it. So people are coming up with all sorts of fun, crazy mechs and integrations and systems, so keeping MPF up to date, but also trying to make it so that other folks can more easily incorporate those
Right.
types of things. So looking at what are the major pain points? Previously, one of the biggest pain points was the media engine that drives the graphics, the slides, the videos, the screens. It's been a real challenge to get the sort of visuals on screen that you want. So over the last year. Actually, it's been almost exactly a
Yeah,
year.
it really is.
I've been building a new visual engine based on the Godot game engine,
Right.
and I'm sad that Ernie's not here because he was one of the first to jump into it. But now starting to see the types of graphics and on-screen displays that folks are doing, it's just incredible. And I know that Fast is hard at work on all kinds of new boards and switches and
Send you a
drivers
care
and
package
things
of,
like
can you
that.
make this work? Yeah.
So yeah, just trying to make sure that everything is up to date and people. The software should not be a limitation. The hardware limitations can usually be worked around with creativity and ingenuity. But for people who aren't programmers, for people who don't know, all that underlying stuff, making MPF as straightforward to use as possible, so that when somebody has an idea, it's like, okay, here's how we do it, and you just roll on forward.
Well, a lot of the work that you're doing with the graphics engine and stuff like the media engine is really to make it easier to maintain going forward. Because a lot of the problems that people were having was like, okay, I can install this stuff. Wait, I need this version of this driver or this. I mean, it was making it painful to get to the satisfying point of actually creating a game. So this is where if any of you have extra drink tickets or anything like that, give them to this guy because he is doing all the unsung hero work that makes all the creation of pinball like something we all actually enjoy. So.
And it is, an open source. It is community. I joined, 7 or 8 years ago when I started working on my machine because I was familiar with the language and took over from Jan, who had, he was an engineer and he had a project that he was working on, and he sort of took over from Brian, who created it originally. And then other folks, like the Cobra pin platform. I don't know his name, but Cobra, he's very active in the community. Like if somebody has a problem with the board or something, like he will write the MPF code, and he will update it. I know Fast did a big re-platforming recently, and they hired Brian to come back and rewrite all the MPF code. And then recently, Alex, or Bosch, has really been diving in. Like, he's doing all the documentation, like finding errors and fixing things. And I don't know who he is, where he came from, but it's a community, and if somebody is willing to jump in, or if somebody has the drive to help make MPF better or easier, like nobody owns it. It is just there, and so everybody can dive in and everybody can help, and that's what makes it really cool, because people are doing things that I had no idea that anybody would want to do.
Yeah, push those limits. I think that everybody will kind of band together to figure out a cool problem to solve. So the clearer your vision is for what you want to accomplish, the more likely other people can go, I can help with that. Or if we tried this is something I did on my own project, maybe that'd be a way to solve another problem. So thank you for being here, man. I'm so glad. It was a big surprise for me, so it's great to see you.
Good to see you.
Okay, so Greatest Showman. So I got to say, come on down. So this is Jeffrey Jones and Lisa Sue. They made the Greatest Showman game. One of the greatest moments was getting them to meet each other. So every time I go to a show, she asks, where's Anthony? Where's Mike Becker? Where's who else? I mean, you got a long list of people.
Gavin Guest.
Yeah, right.
Those are my heroes, my three heroes. Heroes.
Well, I got a chance to capture the photo of them getting to meet for the first time. So it was a special homebrew moment, Okay, so another award-winning homebrew game. So this was best of show at the Pinball Expo this year?
Right.
So what is so cool about these games being so full dress? I mean, and this is the quick story of our relationship, like it was 2 years before, or a year before that.
2 years.
2 years before that. And it was, we think we want to do this. And I think you guys got to talk about the bartering you did to make this game actually exist. The roles that you took on. Like, talk a little bit about that process.
So I've been restoring pinball machines for years, and my wife kept saying, you should make a Greatest Showman pinball machine, because we kept seeing all these awesome homebrews. And what made it happen was about 2.5 years ago, she said if I made the machine, she would learn how to code.
Stupid. It was stupid.
But you did it. I mean, and I've said before, like, she's programmed more pinball machines than I have. And that's something that, like, I aspire to do someday, but the fact that you got in and started doing it and asking good questions and just you had a project that you wanted to see exist. I mean, both of you, And I think that's one thing that a lot of these homebrew projects really use as a vehicle to get to a point where you're successful. It's like you've got to have that vision for where you want to go. And I think the two of you working together created something incredible. So at this point, like, this is the third show we've been to?
This is
Second.
It's our third show, but
Okay.
you weren't at Cincinnati.
Okay.
We've been to
It doesn't
Expo and
matter.
then Cincinnati in here, yeah.
But so, what have you taken away from the different shows? Like, have you had to do much refinement or tweaks or changes?
With each show we've been to, it's so exciting to particularly watch really good players play the game. Just like makes my heart happy. And they give really good feedback. So that every time we show it, I go home and do something different with the code, because they'll have fantastic ideas of how you can, have you thought about doing this or that or something else? And so I work on the code a little bit more. And then we had our ball lock ended up being a virtual lock, and it was hard to keep track of whether you'd locked 1, 2, or 3. So we worked with our artists and changed out a plastic and added some more lights to keep track of that. That was player feedback. So the player feedback is wonderful.
Yeah. I mean, when you know the game and know the intention of it, like, it makes sense to you. But to the person walking up to it, there might be the hints that they don't have, so they don't know what they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you talked about, like, this game, total fit to finish, award-winning, but you're still bringing home new things you want to work on and refine and stuff like that. And I think that's really great. So one of the things that I do think that, is worth talking about is, like, this game started as a retheme of an original, like, Whirlwind layout and stuff. And so one of the big things with homebrew is there are so many problems to solve that if you can minimize the number of things you're tackling on your first project, sometimes even starting from existing layouts and modifying things can get you into the process of working on the game you want faster. So what was it that made you pick Whirlwind? Like, was this just a layout you loved, or?
I had just finished restoring our Whirlwind when we were talking to you, like 2 weeks later.
Okay.
And once we decided to tackle this project, we started talking about, I knew I didn't want to design my own playfield for our first. So I said, well, I have an idea that it should be Whirlwind, because the 3 rings on a Whirlwind are ideal for the 3-ring circus for Greatest Showman. And we like whirlwind layout, so that's why we chose the whirlwind. Now, some people think, well, this is just a re-theme, but other than the layout, that's where the similarities to whirlwind end. The wiring harnesses, the boards, the power supplies, the coding, everything's custom.
Yeah.
The only thing similar to whirlwind is the layout.
Well, and I think that's also something too that we've seen people stand over and playing the game, and they kind of look at, where do I know this from? So I mean, it's not like a whirlwind with some different stickers on it. I mean, it's so deep and immersive, just like the Saw guys did a similar project with a whirlwind
And
theme
that's
too.
a great machine.
And those games side by side, like it doesn't look like they're just a clone thing with a different like.
I think that was what was fun about having them next to each other at expos. They were technically the same, but they
Right.
were so different.
Yeah, the experience is
It was
definitely a
great.
different thing.
Yeah, I loved it.
So, I mean, at this point, you've created a beautifully award-winning, again, I keep saying award-winning because I get such a kick out of that, but like, the award-winning process of making a game like this, I've heard you talk about aspiring to do another game at some point, you know, so I know you don't need to give away themes or anything like that, but what is your goal? What's the event? We just talked about using shows and events as a deadline. What is your target?
We have started our next game. We're not announcing the theme yet. We want our artwork to be a little farther along. It is going to be based on another game, which is a party zone, but I am changing the playfield up some. I am customizing some of the layout, so it's not going to be exactly the same. We want the playfield artwork to be done before we start showing our progress, and we're hoping that might happen within the next 4 to 6 months.
But we're hoping to have it at Expo 26.
Very cool. Well, I mean, I'm not going to give anything away. You've shared with me what you're working on, and I'm so excited about this theme. So I've seen what you've done with this theme and what you could do with your next theme. I'm ecstatic for. Like, I think my wife would come out to play the game just because it's such a theme she would be super into as well. So
Great.
I've been telling people that we realize The Greatest Showman is a very niche theme, and that's not for everyone. Our next theme is not niche. It's something well loved by most people. So
Well,
we're
awesome.
really looking forward to it.
Well, again, I'm so glad you guys are here. I love seeing you every time we come to these shows, and everybody needs to come out, go play Greatest Showman, and just learn about what it takes to code your first game and build something that's incredible as this. So thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you.
Okay, Tony Hawk, Pro Pinball crew, come on down. So I felt really bad at the Pinball Expo, I think it was. We tried to do a talk like this, and this format is a new thing. We're trying to get these talks to be a little more casual, a little more freeform, so it's not just 9 people in a row saying, yes, I used the Mission Pinball framework also. Like, this is intended to really show off the creative process. Well, that thing that I thought we were going to blow through in like 25 minutes ended up going overtime, and we didn't get to interview you guys at all. So introduce yourselves and talk about like Tony Hawk Pro Pinball. Like, how did this come to exist?
Well, I'm Nick Nietzel. I knew I wanted to build a game the second I played a pinball machine.
Right.
It wasn't always something that I was into, and I actually got into it right when we first met as well. This is my fiance Allison, who's also the project manager for Tony Hawk, and this is my buddy Wes Mann, who did the coding from Maine.
Okay.
So we're in St. Louis, and he used to live in St. Louis as well and moved away. Today, well, I'm not going to spill the beans. That's your story to tell. But I've always been a tinkerer.
Okay.
I grew up racing motocross. The Tony Hawk series was super important to me, and as it was with a lot of guys coming up and gals, that game is iconic. And then I got into race cars, so like I've just turned a wrench my whole life.
Yeah.
And then when I got in front of a pinball machine and I saw everything that was going on in it, and it's also not filled with oil and gasoline and like all the stuff that sucks
Use
about
it in
working
your
on a
basement.
car. Yeah, I can
Yeah.
work on it in the basement, and
It's safe.
Yeah. It's safer too.
Safer.
Yeah, safer. Yeah. But like the second I saw it, I was like, okay, cool. These are rad. How do I make one? And then it just went from there. So, and that was the theme that I picked.
You know what I think is really cool about your crew here is it's like, you know, whenever you're into a project and stuff like that, there's the parts that you're into and the parts that you do because you have to, but then there's the stuff that needs to be done by somebody, and you have a real support system here, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, that is something that lets you do the part that you're passionate about and focused on, and it's a privilege to be able to work with like someone like Allison who's gonna keep you in order, keep track of your deadlines, keep you on task,
Yeah.
and then have Wes be able to take like the work that you're doing and bring it to life on the play field. And I think that's just incredible to be able to do that. So,
I shoehorned myself in hard. In this project. He wanted to get it done within a 1 year time span, and I just knew that probably wasn't going to happen with his mechanical background. And so at a time he's like, well, I just want to get everything finished before I start doing the code. And I was like, no, we're going to start the code now. And I'm going to start the code, and we're going to do this.
Yeah.
And I think that really kind of pushed him as well, which was really nice.
Yeah, I mean, we'd be on Discord, and I'd have my headphones on,
Yep.
talking to him, and he's like, okay, press this button. And I'm like, okay, that didn't light up. And he's like, okay, you know, I'm hacking the mainframe while I'm like grinding on stuff. Like,
This is the first time I physically played the game since its inception.
oh, that's awesome.
today, yeah.
Today.
That's incredible.
And then I'll let you tell the story about how you knew that I needed help as well.
So he needed a project manager. I wasn't trying to fill that role. I came downstairs one day, and we had about 5-6 months left till the game was ready, and he's on the floor and just staring into space with this look of disappointment. And I'm like, is everything okay? He goes, I don't know what I need to do next. I don't know. I have so much stuff. I said, okay.
Yeah.
I said, let's just brain dump. Let's just write everything down you have left need to do. Don't order it. Don't time it. Just figure it out. And then I said, okay, now what's the order of what you need to do? And then, okay, now what's the timeline? So I run my own dental office back home in St. Louis. So I run a business. I ran his machine like I was running a business. So
You were the boss.
I was the boss.
That's why I mean, if you look at the game, all three of us are listed as credits. It's not just like I'm throwing that out there. Like, legitimately, I would not be, the game wouldn't be here. It wouldn't have been in the state it was at Expo. I wouldn't have furthered my career, and I'm now working with the Electric Playground. You know, I was not in the pinball industry before Expo,
Right.
and now I am. And, you know, I built that game as a resume, and they helped me
Right.
like, having a support system is crucial, and I'm so blessed, you know, to
Well, you
have
also get
special
the-
people in my life.
Well, that, and you get the accountability. You know, you want to make what you do as incredible to show off the efforts that they've done in the best way possible. And
Absolutely.
that starts to feed on itself. You know?
Yeah, and
There were a couple times where I had to kind of rail him back. I was like, no, we're not going to do that. You don't need to change this.
I had to do the same thing in person with the physicalness of that. We did this
Last week.
He added a very cool ramp on the right-hand side that feeds the right in lane. I was like, okay, that is great. But before he finished it, he was like, I want a taker with the red rail. I'm like, I don't think you should have taken that apart yet, because we're trying to figure out where we wanted to go in the left in lane. And I was like, this looks terrible.
It cost me days.
Yeah.
It was days. I shouldn't have, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And then I fixed something else that I shouldn't have fixed on the machine today. So what are you going to do?
But I think that's definitely part of the challenge with homebrew is like it's technically never finished. There's not an official deadline, so you've got to set your own deadline.
I think your
like that.
deadline gets set when you get sick of it. You know,
Well, that's a good
you'll
point,
always
yeah.
love it, but you're like it's like you know how hard you worked to get it to that point, and you know we got it done in a year,
Yeah.
and that timeline was. Everybody I've talked to, I'm like, I do not recommend doing it in a year.
It is aggressive.
Use me as an example. I was working full time, and then coming home, I would walk through the door, I'd grab something to eat, I would work until 11 o'clock at night, and I'd get up for 5 o'clock in the morning
Yeah.
for work for the last 6 months, and working even more the last 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So take your time and make it how you want it, and feedback is great, but at the end of the day, it's your game.
Well, I think that's a really good point as far as like, you know, recognizing when things are done. You know, I think I have a hard time quitting something, you know? So the idea that something has gone its whole arc, I think that's where having a vision for what you want to have for the game and then be able to achieve that vision on that. You know, so sometimes it's just a matter of like, how do you document that? How do you share it with amongst your team and say, this is what we need, so that little last minute things don't slip in and then, you know, get you away from that goal and stuff.
Yeah, and I'm really great at going like, well, I know I need to fix this, but this could also be, and then it's 10, 10
And
days
it's
later.
Allison and I sitting and saying, no, that's done. We're done.
Yep.
We're done.
We've got to get it in the car. We've got to get to this event.
Mini interventions.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. I mean, thanks, guys.
You're welcome.
So this and again, this game is in our award winners category. So we won the best game from the Twippies for best homebrew game.
Thank you, yeah.
Very cool. And so this award-winning team we have here, do you aspire to do another game someday?
Yes.
Yes, if.
So yeah, we have a really. It's going to be a passion project. We're kind of trying to move away from the IP.
Yeah.
It's original IP.
There you go.
It is going to be an original IP. We've got some really cool stuff planned for it.
There's some tech in it.
There's some really neat little tech that we're like, why hasn't anybody ever done this? It's going to be really neat, but obviously we're not going to say too much about it.
Yeah, it's something that's near and dear to my heart, and it's something that I know I can do justice to the theme because I physically the team, yes, and the theme because I've experienced it myself, and I'm going to be designing games for the rest of my life.
That's
so
awesome.
If I can put a line
Thank
in
you.
the sand and say that my goal for every single game is going to be theme integration first, and pinball machine second.
Okay.
And that was my goal with Tony Hawk. I wanted to make a skate park first, and then go, okay, let's design a skate park, but also it can work as a pinball machine.
There you go. And that comes across in the game. Like I describe Tony Hawk to people as like, I skated briefly in my career or my life when I was younger, and it was one of those things where it's like you keep failing until you get it.
Right.
But you don't feel like you're failing. It's like you miss it and you want to do it again. Your game has that feeling. It's like I'm shooting a
towed the
shot and I
line,
missed it, shot it again. I don't feel like this game sucks, I can't make that shot. It's like, no, I want to get that shot. And that's something that is a very cool thing to have worked into a game, and even like a homebrew game. It's something that like you guys did this within a year with, limited resources, time and energy, all that stuff, but to see that potent result that came out and experience it, like I want to shoot that again.
I think
go ahead.
the one thing that we, especially Nick, really made sure of is before we did anything art related, code related, we want to make sure the game was fun as a whitewood with no sounds, nothing. And we were both
We lost an hour one day in the basement, and we're like, oh.
flipping a whitewood with nothing associated with it. I was like, this is so
Yeah,
much
yeah,
fun.
I made the solenoid PCB to shoot as flippers on like proto board with like MOSFETs and things like that, just so he could just flip the little flippers. So that was the whole idea.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't incorporate any code at all.
Okay.
So like once he got the flippers working, and I have it tattooed how we wired it up, but.
I just had a cheat sheet on his arm there.
I've used that. I've teched people's games at their house and be like, all right, this one's broken. You see that right there?
Yeah.
But just get it fun first, add the code second. Because you can always fix a code, you can't fix a game.
Well, that's one thing. So you talked about like, the theme that you want to be passionate about and stuff like that. But you also mentioned a little bit about like, what is that unique mech or unique toy or unique feature that should be in pinball? And that's a guiding principle for a lot of games too. Whether it's coming in from a theme standpoint or coming into a why doesn't this exist in pinball yet standpoint and stuff. We've all stood over games and thought, man, if this thing did this instead, that'd be incredible. And I've found that like oftentimes there is a game somewhere that I never knew about that had that feature. But I definitely love seeing, and Anthony talked a little bit about it too, is like when people go, I want this thing to do this strange movement, hold the ball a certain way, where you got to figure out how would I even build that? How would I even code that? But if that's key to your game, you'll make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I've got a bucket full of failed 3D prints where I screwed it down to the whitewood and shot it and was like, well, that doesn't work,
It's a filing cabinet, a three-tier filing cabinet full of failed 3D prints.
I'm gonna recycle them.
just sign them because you're award winners now, so you can sign them and be like, "Here's a piece of."
You're really
Tony Hawk's
flattering
Hey,
us.
dude,
Thank
you guys
you
are
very
great. I mean, that's the best part about these experiences is like I want everybody to know that like this process is a lot of work, but it's like super fun, and the camaraderie that comes out of this stuff, like this is just great. So
thank you.
Okay, so I think we actually like have a couple minutes. Like, does anybody have any questions about anybody that you've seen come up here? And if you do, like, come up to this microphone here. I was told to point to. Anybody?
You can ask us anything about our personal lives, whatever.
Lunch preferences, whatever.
Are there issues with IP rights?
You want to answer that, or do you want me to answer it? Or?
I mean, we could talk a little bit about it. So, like, the IP rights, it's one of those gray areas where, like, most of these projects are not commercial projects.
Right.
So that's kind of the easy rule of thumb. But I think that there are other more complicating scenarios when there are other projects that exist that have commercial intent that conflict with other attempts to make, homebrew projects and stuff like that. So the IP end of things is something that, like, if you're creating a product that's using an IP that's going to confuse the marketplace, that makes people think this is actually a game that's representative of this property and it seems legit, that's actually a strange situation that homebrew is getting into now, is that the homebrew games are looking too good. So it looks like a finished professional project, and it's getting itself more on the radar of different IP holders to kind of push back at that stuff.
Yeah,
So
have you heard of any cease and desist orders or anything like that?
there's a club out there, the
Yeah.
cease and desist club. It's growing, but I do think that, like, you want to talk a little bit about this? I mean,
If it's a fan project, our game is a fan project. So Tony likes it. And that's really cool. And I made his team aware, and I didn't want to necessarily show it off before it was completed.
Yeah.
And that was a big part of it too, because if you're announcing a project that uses a big IP and you put it out there before people get to fully grasp what it is, that can negatively affect you as well.
Right.
So like having something come out and using, saying, hey, this is a homebrew project, this is a fan project, this is not something I'm gonna sell, like, we're big fans, like, it's art. It's just like a painting, in my opinion, and as long as I'm not selling it and people get to play it, I haven't had any problems.
I would say it's definitely not a hard and fast thing. Unfortunately, it gets confusing because there's some IP holders that are so stoked to see that you did something with their IP that they're like, I love it, that sounds great. There's others that now, you run into issues when people start streaming their build process and they're sharing their theme. Now you're loading keywords and IP names into algorithms that are then potentially monetization situations. That's also drawn a lot of attention to IP projects like this, like fan art projects like this, that can be a little challenging. So I'll always encourage you to go and do an original theme, hire a great artist to create something, create a good story that you want to create, because again, IP will attract people to your project as a nobody. You've never made anything before, but a great game, people will play and then they will seek it out. And we've seen that happen on other homebrew games too. So.
You talked a little bit about people seeking you out. Is there like a website for getting communities together to work on projects like this?
So in the fast pinball community, we have like a Slack channel that is only made up of people that actually own fast hardware. So the idea is that everybody in there's got skin in the game. They've done probably what you're seeking to do, probably fairly recently. Lisa Sue talked about like seeing, being a new person in that community, but seeing new questions that like you can answer and diving in to answer that. And that's good way to give back to the people that are interested in getting into pinball. But finding a community, there's a lot of different groups out there, a lot of different Discord channels and stuff like that. Like Ernie's got his Trident Pinball Discord channel as well.
The strictly custom Facebook group.
Oh yeah.
Oh, they're like 11,000 members on there.
Jake Danzig runs the Facebook group Strictly Customs. Check that out. I mean, he sees every project that comes out. Stuff I used to feel like I knew everyone.
Yeah.
And there's projects that come out there on the daily.
I'm on the Trident Pinball. I'm also in theirs an MPF group, like a Google group that I have talked one-on-one with Anthony.
There is not a group for project managers, I'm sorry.
All right, let's get another question coming up here. And if we don't get to everybody's questions, come and hang out with us.
One more question real quick.
What's that?
One more question.
Hurry.
Virtual pinball, does anyone ever develop on that prior to doing the real one?
Yes.
Primarily for rule development and stuff like that, to say like, would this be fun if I actually took the effort to make it into a physical form? So
And MPF actually works with the VPX, so you can code and do some things within that to kind of get you launched.
Next question.
Hello. I actually had two questions, but I'll narrow it down to one. I'll pick the better of the two. I guess the question that I had was, Nick, you mentioned moving away from an IP, moving to something more original.
Yes.
I'm curious what your thoughts, and anybody else over in this area, what your thoughts are on designing a machine first that's based on an IP, and then moving to something that's non-IP. How that prepares you for your own ideas, to like put your own ideas into the modes, and to put your own ideas into the story that you would build. things like that. Do
If
you feel,
we
you
had
feel like
to-
that's more, that prepares you better because you have a structure that a framework that
Right.
you're taking from with the IP, and now you're going to create your own framework? Thank you.
For Tony Hawk specifically, those shots were designed with the IP in mind first. If I tried to put that into another IP, impossible. I mean, every single shot is straight out of the first level of the first game.
Right.
So if that was an issue, I would have scrapped it.
And yours is a very literal example. I mean, it's like
It's
you're looking at it,
the
it physically
first
looks like it. Now, you could take other themes that were more generic. I
Right,
think,
right.
You know, like,
Like Honey Talks Pro Skate,
Yeah, I said something about like a generic skateboard game.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like that, and it was always Tony. So
We'll squeeze in more questions if we can.
Best place to go community-wise, like I can build it, I can conceptualize all this stuff, but the programming part. So where would you go, or reverse? Like you're a good programmer, but you need somebody to build. Where would you go to find that partner? Because it sounded like you guys were doing a lot of virtual, like coding for his machine.
I mean, try like the Trident Pinball Group, the MPF Google Group, both excellent places. I think there's even a subreddit for pinball machine makers and manufacturers.
Yeah, but I think the communities, you kind of find yourself. You know, if you put yourself out there saying, this is the vision I have for a game I want to make, and this is what I'm good at, if somebody could help me with this, there may be people in the inverse that say, like, I am not able to physically build anything, but I can write the most amazing code or graphics or animations than you could ever imagine. You see a lot of cool pairings like that. So there are people out there for sure. All right, let's squeeze one last one in because you made the effort.
I got here last, so you might have already gone over this. Has there been an opposite of the IP? Like someone saw that and they're like, whoa, that's nice. Hey, let's mass produce that. Is there any example of that?
For homebrew specifically?
Homebrew, like, wow, this is good. And someone,
Yeah, the most famous one is Scott Denise's Total Nuclear Annihilation. That was a game.
true,
That was like a
Has there
homebrew
been any
game.
others like that where someone made it and like, okay,
Wasn't Elf like that? Didn't Elf, aren't they going to go into production?
Well, okay, so Archer was the game that got picked up by Stern and Keith Elwin and became Iron Maiden. So, I mean, that's a similar path where the layout and the geometry of that game was then used to translate to a commercial game itself.
oh, that wasn't based on another one. It was totally fresh.
The Archer game originally, that was from scratch, yeah.
Elf wasn't though, was it? I thought Elf was based on an old.
But Elf it hasn't become a commercial game.
Oh, he was
so.
That's news to me. Maybe.
Yeah, I think there.
Send me that link.
I think there was aspirations to do it, and like some a little bit of pushback as far as like stop bringing that game around because somebody's got the license to it. So I don't know that whole story. I might be making that up.
So far those two.
That's
Nuclear
does anybody else
Annihilation
know
and
of other games? Like I
Archer.
might be drawing a blank. Sure. Yeah.
Motorhead did, and I think so.
Oh, Motorhead got
Right. Right. Okay, we're out of time. So thank you guys so much for coming out. This is our Making Pinball, Making Friends talk. Yeah. Come to the booth. Come say hi to everybody. We all want to tell you how cool it is to make pinball. Thank you.